All right.
We're back with Formula One again today, and we're going to be discussing Mercedes and the 2026 new regulations. With me to do that is Clay Williams, Mustafa Jinadu, and Mr. Johnny. My name is Afolabi, and welcome to the show.
All right, guys, welcome. So we're going to jump straight into it and look at Mercedes. Coming in, Mercedes is expected to have the most powerful engine and with a loophole. And this seems like deja vu because the years that Hamilton started winning, when Hamilton jumped from McLaren to Mercedes, Mercedes had a very powerful engine, and that's when the rules changed from ground effects or from downforce to engine power, and Mercedes dominated for 6 years. So now we're seeing again where the powertrain is going to be important and the aero is not going to be important. So we're going to see a shift again from Red Bull era where Verstappen won 4 to perhaps the Mercedes era where they're going to win a bunch because of engine. But when we look at it carefully, we have to ask, is that really going to happen? We know they'll have an engine advantage, but the question is, will they be able to handle some of the instability of the car? And also, Mercedes has a history of relying too much on data without having a concept. So it looks like they may win this year, and it may be a repeat of their glorious years when they win for 5 years or so. But the real question is, will they be hamstrung by data, or will they be hamstrung by the fact that Red Bull has Verstappen in his peak, and they also have a lot of money, and a lot of people have jumped from Mercedes to Red Bull, and they were from the power unit. My guess is that Mercedes, like in the past era when Hamilton won 7, and they won for 8 years in a row, they will have the more powerful engine, but they're not going to be beating teams by 30 seconds like they did in the last era, because these cars are have a little bit more complicated problems, such as the energy deployment and everything, and also they have narrow wheels and they're very unstable. Whereas during the Mercedes era, the cars were very stable and you could brake hard and late, and they had a lot of stability and grip. So I think they'll have an advantage, but the question is, will it be enough to beat McLaren and Ferrari and Red Bull? I'm going to say McLaren and Red Bull. I never trust Ferrari. So that's the debate we're going to do. So what we want to do, ask is Mercedes going to continue the same pattern they had before and run away with victories for years later, then get caught later on due to poor data or anything, or is it that they have a slight advantage and they're going to falter? What are your thoughts, Kunle?
Yeah, I think that Mercedes have done quite well to get to the point that they are in the testing with the preparation of their engine. Historically, they've been a very good team. Toto Wolff has managed to make sure that they have historically had good racecraft in races as well. It was hard to really determine how the car is going to perform. Obviously, everybody is new, so it's not really easy for us to take too much of that into consideration at this time, because it's one to see how good the engine is. It's another to see how good the engine is as compared to other cars. We know that Ferrari seems to have done quite well with their engine, and Audi are experimental with theirs. But I still think, yes, I still do feel that Mercedes engine is a bit ahead of everyone else, regardless. But you still have to see how that pans out. Yeah, so that's how I feel.
Yeah. And so the thing is that, I think Mercedes, number one, they traditionally built powerful engines. And in the last era when they were dominating, it was an engine-based thing. Was it hybrid? I don't know if it was hybrid, but they had a lot of hybrid. They had a lot of power. And now this is sort of a hybrid type of thing again. So they still have advantage, especially with their, is it Brixley or Brixworth or Bricky or Baku or whatever, that place in England. They have tons of money, even though there's a cost cap. They still have tons of research that's hidden from other teams based on their innovations there. So it's going to help them. But now with this electricity thing, nailing that is going to be an issue. I think they've been preparing longer than other teams because I think they gave up after they started having purposing in 2022. And Red Bull wasn't spending money on the next era. So Mercedes has an advantage because Mercedes was like, okay, we're not doing well. As of 2022, they've been preparing. Red Bull hasn't been preparing for 2026 because they were trying to get as many championships for Verstappen. Same thing with Ferrari. Audi, they're using the Ferrari engine, and the Ferrari is dealing with reliability. They're not dealing with power, so they're going to use steel alloy. Thanks, what's his name, Roman, for putting us into the research. Steel alloy, which is heavy and everything. They're going to have a steel alloy engine, which is going to be 10 to 15 kgs heavier, but it's going to be optimized for fuel efficiency and things like that. But they're focusing on that, on fuel efficiency and on reliability more than power. So I still think Red Bull's going to have, I'm not Red Bull, Mercedes is going to have more power. But we know that Ferrari probably has an advantage over Mercedes in aerodynamics, but aerodynamics may not be as important right now in the first year. I think aerodynamics is going to be more important after people get the engine down and stuff 2 or 3 years into this regs. What do you think of Ferrari?
Yeah, I quite agree with you. Mercedes has always dominated because of their early head start, especially post 2014. They perfected the V6 hybrid engine years before anyone else. So this one gave them a head start. But when they entered the ground effect era that started from 2022, the zero side pod design gave them a lot of problem, and it led to porpoising and bouncing of the car. So those years were not very good for them. So I think this 2026 is an opportunity to reset. But even as good as they are in power units, I think their expertise is slightly tilted towards the internal combustion area, not much so as the electric area of the engine. So I think now it will be a tricky one. They are good when it comes to engine, but succinctly speaking, it's internal combustion engine, not the electrical aspect. So I still have my reservations. And like you said, Mustafa, in terms of data, you can't really rely on them so much. And there's formidable competition from McLaren and Red Bull. So that's just...
Let me be honest with you. I have a feeling that Aston Martin is going to nail the electrical side. And Aston Martin is going to nail the electrical side with Honda.
Yes,
those Japanese boys don't fuck around with those systems. And with Newey building an
probably Cadillac.
Yeah. And Newey is built, because Cadillac has their they're going to have an algorithm. Yeah. Cadillac has an algorithm that no, is that Audi? I think Audi has the algorithm. No, Cadillac has it. The algorithm that's going to help them deploy the energy, and Ferrari might share that with them. I mean, they might share that with Ferrari, maybe. But what you said is true. But Aston Martin, we know that aerodynamics is going to be closely aligned to the electrical side of things. You get my point, and how to balance things out. So watch out for Aston Martin. Oh yeah, man, we hit some good notes here today, man. Less beer, less wine. What are your thoughts? This is Johnny. What's happening?
Yeah.
You think that they're going to run away with it like they did when Hamilton came, or is it going to be more tempered? Yeah.
It does seem like deja vu, but the question is, have they been preparing actually? Because like last time when they were run away with it, they've been preparing in 1 year. Like you guys, Falabi said, they did a post. There was a post engineering. They were prepared. Yeah. They
had Braun helping them out, Braun and stuff. Yeah.
They prepared the year before the introduction of the hybrid. Now, so this hybrid situation now, have they been preparing? Were they preparing last year? That's the question.
I think they have. I think they've been preparing since their car started having troubles, since the year before Lewis Hamilton left. I think so. But I think you're right. Maybe they haven't, because Toto Wolff has been talking more about Verstappen than anything. But I think that even if they haven't been preparing, they can still build on some of the principles they learned during the Hamilton era, since it's an engine heavy. This is engine driven era rather than aerodynamics, so that will be an advantage to them. But the quick question is, have they been preparing? Because I still suspect that Toto Wolff just trying to improve the shares of Mercedes, and is not going to spend the type of money to push that car to the limit. What do you think, Johnny? Then we'll move on.
And obviously, and that's, I mean, I like what Falabi mentioned about the electrical part of it all. I mean, they are good in combustion, but that electric, that's even new for them too. So that's what's going to, we're going to see whether they can solve all their problems with that.
That's a limitation. That's a limitation. And this year there's many challenges now, because electric versus combustion. Drivers have to strategize and do the deployment of energy. Then also, the car itself is going to have less stability than the ground effect, and we know the ground effect is unstable. So there's now more things to juggle, so that Mercedes' advantage in engine alone is not going to be enough to carry them through. What do you think, Kunle?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, engine alone is not going to be enough to carry Mercedes through. They're going to have to look at the other things that are going to affect the car, including the aerodynamics. You're going to have to look at the drivers as well. I'd like to think that Russell is there. I wonder how close is Antonelli to Russell in terms of being able to score points right at the top of the tree. I sort of somehow think that Russell is going to lead there.
Yeah, it's another year and a half or so. Another year and a half to me.
Yeah. What Antonelli is going to determine is the weaker part of Mercedes. I hope that he does better than what I fear he will do, which is I think he'll probably be around between 4th and 6th.
That would affect them for the constructors, but not for the drivers. And actually, to have one dominant driver is better for the drivers, because then all the data will be around George Russell. I mean, not on Russell. All the data will be on Russell. Can you imagine with McLaren? They don't get data. They don't get data from either driver. Those boys are useless, man. It's just the car. What were you going to say, Mr. John? You wanted to jump in? Yeah.
Yeah, I just have a suggestion for Antonelli. No matter what, the first 4 races is to just try and score more points than Russell. He does that, then he becomes the main driver. Because
go ahead.
Because Mercedes, they always do that. I mean, they always like, as soon as you are scoring points, then you be the guy, and then because they are always strategic in that kind of way. So if I was Antonelli, I'd just try and do that, and then because he can do that, he can Antonelli is actually as good as Russell in he
doesn't have the technical base that Russell has. So Russell might still beat him this year because he's more technical and analytical, but Antonelli's talent will kick in once he masters the analytical, which he'll do this year. Because they said Antonelli has been doing his homework. He's been spending more time learning the technical part. All right. Last time to follow me, then we'll use this one as a draw to steal 5 minutes for Man City and get on the, because that will be trending soon. I feel like, what are your last thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think Mercedes will be very competitive in 2026, but they are no longer guaranteed winners, in my own opinion. They have the history, they have the money and engine strength. But like I said, the cars will change a lot this year. Engines will change even more with a much bigger focus on electric power. And then you are using fuel that is supposed to be sustainable. They don't want fuel that is going to be depleting the ozone layer. So we don't know if that fuel will be able to deliver the power that is required. And when the power is delivered, we don't know what ratio is manageable on the electric side. So there are lots of parameters that need to be juggled around. And I don't think this is straightforward for Mercedes. And like you said, the data and the competition from rivals is not going to make it easy for Mercedes, but they're certainly very competitive, really.
All right, and we're going to leave our fans hanging because we're not going to say who we think will win. Because if we say it, then you won't watch our next show. So stay tuned for the next one when we say who's going to win the driver. That's the way to end.
Very good.
Okay, did you watch that?